Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And we're into the 1950s here in 2024, and we're into one of his most famous films, and one that's definitely drawing upon his heritage of being an Irish American, and that is The Quiet Man. And joining me for this episode is member of the movie club and my friend of 14 years, Vinny. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. And geez Louise, it really has been that long.
Yeah, 1 month from now was when I started college. And I remember going 1 month from now was it was going to be 14 years since I started college, and I remember going to film club, and that's where Vinny and I met. So yeah, time flies by, and this movie is also like 75 years old, close to 75 years old, 73 years old is also crazy. But for those who haven't tuned in to Welcome to the Wasteland, before we have three segments, we always do coming attractions for the week of this episode's release, which is Friday, August 16th. We're dead smack in the middle of, August, that weird month where you can get some really great gems and also a bunch of crap that just comes out plopped in August. And everybody's like, well, maybe we'll get that one movie to really catch fire, make some money. Then we'll get to our feature film and then have some recommendations for you. So, honestly, not a ton coming out this weekend. It was supposed to be the weekend we were getting Kevin Costner's Chapter 2 of Horizon American Saga, but just kidding, that'll come out later. And besides what the movie that we're both going to pick, you can also check out Jean Reno hanging out with a penguin. That's always fun. But Vinny, what movie are you most excited for August 16th?
Definitely Alien Romulus. I really enjoyed Fede Alvarez's two horror movies, the Evil
Mhm.
Dead remake and Don't Breathe. So I'm definitely looking forward to what he does with sci-fi horror.
Yeah, I was late to the party on the Evil Dead remake because I heard about tongues and knives, and I'm just like, that's a lot for me. And also, I'm like, I don't like that they remade this, but actually watching it's like it's really great. And Don't Breathe was so intense. And when I found out that they were coming out with another Alien movie, I'm like, well, because they can't help themselves, obviously. Um, and interesting that this is not going to be in the hands of Ridley Scott at this point after both Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And they put a lot of money into this movie. I was shocked by how big the budget is for this because it's like,
Well, you know what? I will say with the Evil Dead remake, you know what? I didn't quite like it when I saw it, like when it came out, but then um last year I marathoned through the Evil Dead movies like leading up to Evil Dead Rise, and I actually did end up liking the Evil Dead remake more than I did like than when I first saw it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I watched it probably for the first time, well, sometime last year, just in time for the release of one of the greatest title reveals in the history of movies, Evil Dead Rise. That went hard.
It
That
really
opening
did.
scene is just like, bah,
That whole opening sequence went hard.
yo. But in terms of this film, all the practical effects, and you can just tell like it looks like they're on an actual ship and everything, which is really cool. Um, it'll be interesting to see how much this stands out on its own from just, is it just going to be another Alien movie? And the challenging thing is, it's really hard to beat the cast from the original Alien movie and also the cast from Aliens because they had some really great characters and really talented actors, especially great character actors for the original
Mhm.
Alien. It'll be interesting to see because I don't know much about the cast for this movie. So, but the trailer got me. I'm like, this looks like an alien movie, and it looks like a good alien movie. So that's something to be excited about. But Vinny, you have any other thoughts about Alien Romulus before we jump into for something completely different?
Not much. Just that I'm really looking forward to it. It's been seven, yeah, 7 years since Alien Covenant, so I definitely think it's high time for a new installment just to see what a different director can bring to the table.
Wow. It's already been 7 years since Alien Covenant came out. That's
Yep,
crazy. That's crazy to me. Because Prometheus came out in 2012.
yep.
That's 12 years ago. I remember seeing that for the first time. That was one of those movies where I left the theater and like, that was absolutely amazing. I loved this movie. And the longer I thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, plot
See,
holes. But
see
it's honestly, I still like it way more than a lot of people.
yeah,
But
I mean, I really liked it when I first saw it, and then yeah, I mean, after thinking about it, yeah, like the story, kind of falls apart like here and there, but I mean it's definitely like a I mean at least visually it's a stunning movie.
it certainly is. And
And
that also,
and it was one of the few movies that I actually chose to see in 3D back when that was like still the craze, and the 3D actually was very impressive for it.
I'm pretty sure I saw both that and Alien Covenant in Cinemark XD. They're like IMAX
Mhm.
screens, which yeah, they're gorgeous films. They're incredibly shot films. Ridley Scott knows how to shoot a movie, so there you go. Not surprised. But I have some background on The Quiet Man. Can you just imagine Fede Alvarez is like, I'm going to remake The Quiet Man? What an interesting choice that would be. So this is indeed obviously a John Ford film. This came out in 1952, and this is a romantic comedy starring John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara, who I believe they made about 6 or 7 films together, 3 of which were with along with John Ford, and of course two very common frequent collaborators, character actors Victor McLaughlin, who was nominated for an Oscar for this, and there was indeed a Ward Bond sighting. So another one on the tally for my John Ford series is Ward Bond's in a lot of these movies. Now, this is based off of a short story in the Saturday Evening Post called The Quiet Man, written by Maurice Walsh or Morris Walsh, however, wherever you are from and how you pronounce that name. This was indeed John Ford's fourth and last Best Director Oscar, which, dude, just like, obviously, he made a ridiculous amount of movies. He made close to 130 movies over the course of his career. Only 80 or so of them are actually still watchable, which is why I'm doing 80 movies for this series. But four Best Director Oscars is insane. It's ridiculous. A lot of directors get like that lucky chance of like winning 2 of them, and John Ford's like, nope, I'm gonna double that. This also did win Best Cinematography for Witten Hotch. This is indeed in the United States National Film Registry at the Library of Congress. This was Republic Pictures' only Academy Award winning film because they were known for making B movie westerns and
I
stuff
read
like
about
that,
that.
which is very interesting. This did get nominated for 7 Academy Awards total. The author was paid a grand total of $3,750, which I'm sure that's a lot more in 1952, but that sure does sound like not a lot of money compared to like this made a couple of $1 million. Ford broke his agreement to make it under 2 hours because supposedly he made an agreement with Republic Pictures that he would make sure that this movie was under 2 hours. Which notably, this is his first film over 2 hours. As I've watched dozens of them up to this point. And apparently, he showed a screening of this and stopped it at the 2 hour mark right before they really got into the brawl at the end of the movie. And then the studio was like, yes, you could keep the last 9 minutes, show us more of the movie. So, what a wily one that John Ford was. This was starring many Irish theater actors. And this was one of the first major films that actually featured the Irish language. Which there's like that one scene where they speak, which was so interesting after watching Kneecap like a week or two ago and being like, wow, Irish is a very interesting language. And then all the indoor shots of the film were shot in Hollywood, and all the outdoor shots were shot in Ireland, and it looks like it, and it shows. So there is some background for this film, and our synopsis is a retired American boxer returns to the village of his birth in 1920s Ireland, where he falls for a spirited redhead whose brother is contemptuous of their union. So, Vinny, what were your general thoughts on The Quiet Man?
I really enjoyed it. This is actually my first John Ford movie, and it definitely influenced me to just to see more of his movies later on. Because I've always heard great things about Liberty Valance, how green was my valley, Grapes of
Hmm.
Wrath, The Searchers. But so I definitely want to watch those at some point. But with the Quiet Man, I loved John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara's performances. I thought they had
Hmm.
terrific chemistry, both romantic and comedic. Um, what you said about him shooting the movie in Ireland, like you definitely you can definitely grasp his love for his ancestry just because
Hmm.
just the way he shoots those Irish landscapes are just are absolutely gorgeous, and I could definitely see why this won best cinematography because you almost like feel like the greenery coming out of the
Yeah.
screen like it's just it's stunning to watch just the characters go through those landscapes and take everything in, and it really does the movie really does transport you to Ireland. I thought I had a great time watching it.
Well, my first thought in response to what you said is if you want to watch more John Ford movies, I have at least a dozen more. If you're interested in watching some of them, we can talk about that later. But no, this is a gorgeous film. And one other note that I forgot to write down, but remember from reading earlier when I was doing a little bit of research, this was one of the few films that Republic Pictures shot in Technicolor because they always chose the cheaper color option because they weren't like a huge studio. They were generally like a B movie studio. So this was new for them. Uh, Putting up the money to get like legit Technicolor, and my God, it pops. Those the green of this landscape, that original shot where you have John Wayne on the carriage with the small older Irish guy who's kind of his confidant
Hmm.
throughout the film, and they're on the carriage, and he sees Maureen O'Hara's character for the first time in the fields with the sheep, and her outfit is just popping with how bright the colors are, and it's like, did I really see that? And I'm just like, it is dreamlike. It is that gorgeous to look at. I think one of the coolest shots in the film is there's a really great horse race towards the middle of this film, and
Yes,
distinctly
I love that sequence.
that shot, that wide shot just going across the beach and like that mountain range, and you just seeing all the horses going running across the beach was beautiful, beautiful shot. And this film is one of the most gorgeous looking, richest color films I've ever seen. And inevitably, I was sitting here just being like, why does everything look so drab and bland nowadays? I'm just like, it makes me sad. Which, here's to say, there's still a lot of films out there that look gorgeous
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But like most big studio movies, like color is like so muted, everything's so shiny and sheeny and CGI. It was actually really nice to look at a film that just looks this gorgeous and rich in its colors. Um, I loved Maureen O'Hara in this, and Mary Kate Danaher is such a. I love how they call her a spinster. At this point, it's just like it's like, oh my God, what are you, 25? Are you not married yet? Um,
You
and
don't have 10 kids right now?
yeah, what, you don't have like a whole army of children to work your fields yet? Amateur. Um, she is one gorgeous, and they really capture her beauty in the shooting of this film, and also her expressions. I have to say, she reminds me a lot of Rebecca Ferguson. Like I got a lot of Rebecca Ferguson vibes, and I'm thinking like if they ever did remake this movie, they 100% would have to get Rebecca Ferguson for this movie. The way that for there's a decent like what first 10-15 minutes she's on screen in this movie, she doesn't really say much.
No.
It's a lot more of her, like how she stares and everything, and she kills it. Like the facial expressions that she has in her performance are so good and say so much. And Don Wayne is like, you're thinking like, oh, this is a super Irish movie. I hope he doesn't have an accent. But obviously he's an American who had originally been born here. And so like coming back and he's like the audience conduit to like going back to
Mhm.
Native Ireland and everything. And John Wayne does a really great job here. And yeah, they have great chemistry. They have a fiery sense of chemistry with each other. There's some good conflict going on here. I will have to say, one of my biggest negative about this movie, and this is one of those kinds of arguments of like, this was made in 1952, so I'm not surprised they had stuff like this. I feel like just some of the moments between them, like the fact that he like physically dragged her across like how many miles, it was like kicking her in the butt and just like dragging her unwillingly across this, and I'm just like, and everybody's like, "Oh, here's a switch for you to use later on her," and he's like, "Thanks." I'm
Like,
just like, this is such 1950s humor that does not hit in 2024. But there's moments where like he's really aggressive with her physically, but there's a lot of great moments between them, and she holds her own. Like strength wise and personality wise. I love the moment where she straight up left him and took the carriage that he bought her. It was just like, bye. Because it's like, I love the dynamic that they have where, you know, so much of this movie is them building up to like, they really want to be with each other. And it really comes down to a lot of conflict in the second half of the film is like, Mary Kate raised her own money. But the thing is, at that point, she wasn't really allowed to have it. And her brother controlled her life basically. And he got all pissy at their wedding at reception and wouldn't give the dowry. And John Wayne has like his character Sean has his own perspectives of like, I'm not worried about the money. I didn't marry you for the money. Stop worrying about it. But that's easy for him to say. This is a woman in the 1920s who made her own money and now is being denied all that hard work. And I appreciated him getting to the point where he had to realize, like, hey, stop thinking about from your perspective and start thinking about, like, what about your wife? And obviously, that was one of the bigger conflicts in the second half of the film, which I appreciated.
yeah, yeah. Well, I knew right from like right from Maureen O'Hara's first scene. Well, the first scene where like she actually talks, just just the way she puts the way she puts like, well, how many brothers does she have? Like six or seven? You know, just like the way how she has like not like full control because her one brother does really
Mhm.
pull the strings, but you could tell that like she has like she has like some sort of control over everyone in terms of like how the house is run. So like just to like see her exercise that authority and like her first big scene of the movie and just and just like put her brothers in their place as much as she's able to like right from there I knew I was gonna love her character.
Yeah, absolutely. And she has a lot of spirit about her. And she's the kind of woman that can hold her own. Because, like, she was ready to throw down multiple times in this movie, which also, like, the way they portray Irish people is very stereotypical. And I'm not going to speak to, like, is this really how all Irish people are? A bunch of drunken, brawling people. But, like, thing is, this movie's too charming not to enjoy, honestly. And there's so many fun characters in it. And like we've only alluded to Victor McLaughlin, he's a former Best Actor winner for The Informer that he starred in with John Ford. And he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this. And for so many years in his Westerns, Victor McLaughlin has been like the older soldier that works with John Wayne and is comic relief, but also could beat the crap out of anybody because he's a big Irish bruiser. And now it's like he gets to be the antagonist of a John Wayne movie. And he's also a big burly Irishman who's a bruiser, except this time, like, he has a lot of pull and he really plays that character well. And I really like like the back and forths that he has with John Wayne and the back and forths he has with Maureen O'Hara. Ward Bond is Father Lonergan, who's a lot of fun. Like him and his fishing and just wanting to make sure he gets the fish, wants to catch that darn fish. And then even at the end during the brawl where he's like, yeah, we should probably stop it. And he's just like getting super into the fight.
Well,
And yeah, go ahead.
well, I can't remember if it was either Father Lonergan or that older guy that drives the carriage that John Wayne
Uh,
is friends with. Like I can't remember which one of them did this scene, but like I loved the part where well you have this scene earlier where John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara it's one of like their first nights in like their home together as husband and wife and and like because and like the bed is so unsturdy that they break it just by lying in it and then like the next day when like either Father Lonergan or the friend comes to visit
I'm pretty sure it was Meccaline who comes
okay,
in and
yeah,
it
when
was like I just sees it broken.
he comes into the bedroom and sees the broken bed and thinks it's because of something else and like just like his reaction to that was just priceless.
Yes, which because he tossed her into the bed and it broke just from her landing in it. And because that was also another scene where it's just like because John Wayne wound up sleeping in the sleeping bag that night. And then Maureen O'Hara goes to Father Lonergan, Ward Bond's character, when he's fishing, and they're speaking in like Gaelic and Irish language, and he gets so fired up because he's like, no man sleeps in his bag. He sleeps in a bed. And it's just like that kind of conflict and that kind of perspective. Um, Even Francis Ford, John Ford's brother, was the Dan Tobin, like the really old guy with the long
Mhm.
beard at the bar. And it just, John Ford was so great at filling his films with really talented character actors. And like Arthur Shields, who was the other Reverend, um, who's also showing the bishop around at the end. and places a bet on the fight with the fish, which this movie is so unserious in a lot of ways, and it makes it so much fun because it's like it has so many little funny moments like that. Even from the beginning, when like John Wayne gets off the train and he's just like, "I need to know how to get to this village," and like six different people are like, no, you gotta go this way, no, you gotta go this way, and it's like that kind of like small Irish um personability and just butting yourself into people's
Well,
business.
well, you know, it's funny you say that because because while I was watching the movie, I was thinking like in terms of like the character actors and like the other like smaller parts in the movie, like there really there really is like a personality to this village, like all the people, like all the people in this movie, whether they be big parts or small parts, everyone is just so colorful and
Mhm.
really inhabits their character well.
Honestly reminded me of Banshees of Inisherin because everybody in that movie stands out in some way. They just find that little way of being so charismatic and charming and know how to capture their character. And that's exactly right, Vinny. Like this movie has that. And I think that makes it so much more interesting because there's so many fun little characters in this village that add something to all these different scenes. Um, Obviously, John Ford really knows how to shoot action, and that horse race is thrilling. It's exciting. It's really well shot. And then we have our brawl for it all at the end of the movie, which they went there, and it's two big dudes just throwing haymakers at each other. But of course, after round one, you needed a pint,
Oh,
which
I just loved how they went into the bar and you know they're both acting friendly to each other, but then but then if anything they start fighting over who's gonna pay because they each want to pay, but then they don't want to let the other person pay, and then like if there's like if there's anything that would start a fight, I would not expect it to be that.
which was hilarious because then John Wayne straight up punches Victor McLaughlin through the door of the pub. And like that was a hard hit. And that fight is fun, but it's impactful and thrilling and has a lot of meaning behind it because it's finally Sean fighting for his wife. And that was the biggest thing is that all she wanted him to do was fight for her and stand up for her. But obviously, at some point, we find out why Sean doesn't want to fight.
Mhm.
And that was a shocking moment to me because, like, I forgot because some of the plot synopses on different websites show, like, after a boxer kills his opponent in a match, he goes off to Ireland, which they didn't put that in any synopsis for this movie because that's alluded to at all for like a long time into this movie. That isn't like just casual knowledge going into the movie. And it's more impactful that way because it's like at their wedding when he gets punched out, and it's that great edit to him punching out somebody in the ring and killing him. And you're just like, damn, like that's some real emotion there that adds to the layers of this film and the challenge of like why he doesn't want to go out there and fight. So that really added some meaning and some impact, and I love that scene and how it was incorporated into the story.
Well, what made that scene so impactful, like I mean, if I'm remembering it correctly, like when he punches and kills his opponent, everyone in that arena is still cheering for him, but he's just standing there horrified over over what he's done. So you just got like that really effective contrast between joy and just and just a crushing sadness over the fact that you just ended some you just ended even though it was by accident, you just killed someone, that was just such an effective scene.
Yeah, it was basically anybody in the ring knew, and you see it on all their faces. And that's the moment where like you really feel that. And yeah, it is such an interesting contrast because yeah, it's like everybody's cheering up a storm because that's what they want. They want violence. That's why people watch boxing and stuff like that. But the real consequences that could be viewed by those in the ring, you see it all over their faces, and it's John Wayne and his cornerman behind him, and you could just see it and realize like, oh, this didn't end well. But in general, like this is such a fun, charming, and absolutely gorgeously shot film. It has a great cast. Wayne and O'Hara make such a great pairing, and the likes of Ward Bond and Victor McLaughlin, which not gonna lie, Vinny, could be very sad because both of them pass away by the end of the '60s. So if it'll feel like a little something's missing in these John Ford films when I stop seeing Ward Bond and Victor McLaughlin popping up. Because it's interesting because the first time I ever saw Ward Bond in anything was The Searchers. The Searchers was my first John Ford movie and also still my favorite. Up to this point, I'll have to see if anything that I watch the rest of the way changes that. I doubt it. Maybe The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. I've heard really great things about that. I haven't seen that one before, but it's I'll miss some of these character actors. And Victor McLaughlin has literally been in John Ford films since like the mid 30s. And up to this point, like this is getting to the mid 50s. For 20 years, they had been working together on films. And, you know, obviously there's really famous director actor pairings, but sometimes it's like those character actor pairings that are a lot of fun. You just see those faces popping up in things, like Michael Caine, just, casually popping up in any Christopher Nolan movie almost 20 years. So. But Vinny, I guess, do you have any other thoughts, final thoughts, anything that you wanted to throw out about The Quiet Man?
Not really. I mean, I pretty much said all I wanted to say, but I'll just say again, that with this being my first John Ford movie, I am happy this was my introduction to his filmography, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking out more of his movies.
Absolutely. And as we're wrapping up here, this one didn't quite crack some of my favorites of John Ford, but I think it's in my top like 15 or so, which to be honest, I've watched like 50 something movies of his. So that's still pretty good. This is definitely that era where I've been really enjoying a lot of the films. My next film next week, joining me will be my wife Jess to talk about What Price Glory, starring James Cagney. So, shaking things up a little bit. It looks like a film with not a lot of recurring actors, and James Cagney, of all people, popping up leading a John Ford film. But moving on to our last segment for the show, and that is recommendations. And Vinny, what would you like to recommend to everybody?
I know I'm late to the game on this, but I'd like to recommend, and especially since before you know it, it'll be Halloween season. I'm recommending Netflix's The Haunting of Hill House. I have a cousin who um who has recommended it to me over the past few years, and I never got around to it because I'm more of a movie than a TV guy. It's like it takes a lot for a TV show to get me invested because you're gonna be spending like 10 to 15 hours on it, so you want to make sure it's good. But I finally sat down and watched The Haunting of Hill House, and after that first episode, I was hooked. So if you're looking for something, so whether you want to watch it now or wait for the Halloween season, I definitely recommend it. It's a tremendous show.
Oh, it is. I legitimately think it's probably the scariest show that I've ever watched.
And
I love.
and
Go
well,
ahead.
and I'm also just gonna say, if you end up loving the show, also read the book. I read it for the first time last fall, and it's probably one of my all-time favorite horror novels. It's so good.
I distinctly remember reading that with Jess, and I think we did it because it was around the time that the show was coming out. Jess definitely would not watch the show because she doesn't handle horror at all, and like it's a legitimately scary show. And just recommending, Mike Flanagan has 5 shows, horror shows on Netflix, which that'll be it because he jumped ship to Amazon, which if that comes to fruition, they wind up doing the uh Dark Tower saga. I am gonna be so down for that. But for Mike Flanagan fans, we are gonna get an Exorcist movie since they're like, David Gordon Green, get the hell out of here. Mike Flanagan, come save the Exorcist. Which
Well,
also,
well, well, with the Haunting of Hill House, just so people aren't like taken by surprise between like with the differences between the book and the movie, not the movie, the TV show. So the book, this certainly isn't a complaint. I'm just saying the book, it's not it's not scary. It's more like it's like a slightly chilling ghost story. It's almost like if you're looking for a ghost story that's also kind of like a Halloween comfort read,
mhm,
that's really what the book is like. The TV show, Mike Flanagan, he takes like the general foundation of the novel and puts like his own spin on it, and like the TV show actually is like very scary. Just like if you read the book again, this isn't a complaint. Just don't expect it to be scary, but you will get you will get like a beautiful like cozy like Halloween type of reading.
it's more of like that eerie kind of period kind of
Yes.
flair. And the show is a modernized version. And yeah, Mike Flanagan really leans in to the horror elements. Ooh, some of the jump scares in that show, and also just the use of deep focus is so incredible because there are things haunting in so many scenes in that show that might creep you out when you realize just how many things are lurking in the background. But I have a couple of quick recommendations. So, recommending a new film that I saw is Coup, and starring Peter Sarsgaard as this man who winds up taking the identity of a dead chef and winding up being the chef for a muckraking journalist in his big ass mansion during the Spanish flu. And basically, Sarsgaard's character kind of causes an uprising of the servants in the house and changing the complete dynamics. It's darkly hilarious. Peter Sarsgaard is so good in it, and it has strong themes and interesting themes and some strong performances, and also very relatable because Spanish flu, COVID, all that fun stuff. It definitely is aware of like it's going for that kind of like, yeah, you'll feel this and understand this. One film that I watched off the watch list is The White Buffalo, and this is a supernatural fantastical western focusing on Crazy Horse and Wild Bill Hickok, played by Will Sampson and Charles Bronson, as they hunt for the mythical big white buffalo of indigenous American mythology. And is this a great film? No. It's definitely kind of boring at times, but why I put it on here, if you're a fan of westerns and weird westerns in particular, the scenes where you actually have the buffalo, which is complete practical effects, are honestly kind of terrifying. And I'm shocked this movie was not directed by John Borman, to be honest, because it has that weird, unnerving, dreamlike Excalibur vibes. So if you're in for some weird westerns and a great cast, because like Will Sampson's great, Charles Bronson, Jack Warden, even Kim Novak pops up in a supporting role in it. So it was definitely an unexpected kind of film. I had never heard of it before I did a collaboration with Red Eye Films on Instagram. So you could check out our cool double written review for it. And then one of my movies that I own that I rewatched was The Conversation. And if you want a little bit of a different kind of Coppola film that isn't The Godfather or The Godfather Part Two or the third one, you could check out The Conversation, which is a really paranoid thriller. And Gene Hackman uh, is so great as this very paranoid surveillance expert who there's a really interesting dilemma of morals that he winds up going through in this film and him quickly his reality unraveling with his own paranoia. It's an intense, extremely well crafted film. And Francis Ford Coppola just casually dropped this between the two Godfather movies. Like, yeah, I'm not just gonna, make four straight masterpieces of cinema.
Well,
Oh, Francis Ford Coppola.
with the conversation, I remember when the theaters were closed due to like with COVID, I was doing reviews. I decided to do reviews for like classics that I had never seen, and the conversation was one of them. And I remember loving it, and it definitely has what like I think it has probably one of the best non-horror movie jump scares.
It's an intense movie, and the sound design of everything, because obviously for a film where you're doing all this surveillance, it better be great, right? So, and they really deliver on those technical aspects of the film. I will be discussing that and Apocalypse Now on the Wasteland retrospective with my buddy Mike Hilty for our episode for next month. So if you want to hear deeper thoughts about the conversation and also Apocalypse Meow, um, you can go check that out. But that's a wrap here on Welcome to the Wasteland. But Vinny, thank you so much as always for coming on and talking movies.
Thank you for having me.
And thank all of you for continuing to go on this John Ford adventure with me. I only have a couple months left. And if you want to have some say in one of the future directors, shameless plugs here, go over to my Instagram and vote on my story and show who you want me to take a deep dive. And hopefully, they don't have 80 films. I'm just putting that out there. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.